Thank you, Dr. Neha. Thank you, Dr. Madhul Sahani. And it's a time to start the international session. Today is the 1708th day of uninterrupted daily webinar of IFPH. And before starting the session, let's have a silent prayer. Hello, doctors and students of homeopathy. Today is the 1708th day of uninterrupted daily webinar of IFPH. And today, our speaker is Dr. Surabhi Soni, MD, Associate Professor in Surgery, Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College, Parul University. And today's topic is understanding hypovolemic shock and its therapeutics in homeopathy. Doctor, let us start the session.
Okay. Now it is unmute.
Yeah.
So should I start, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Surabhi Soni, Associate Professor in Surgery Department in Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College. So I have sent request for sharing the PPT.
Just a minute. I'll make you co-host that you can make it yourself. Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now you can start.
So is the PPT visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so today's my topic is hypovolemic shock and homeopathic therapeutics in it. So this is something different topic. This time I have taken as hypovolemic shock is but obviously not an scope of homeopathy, but you cannot consider it as limitation as well, because here there are some of the homeopathic remedies which we can apply in hypovolemic shock to palliate the symptoms of it. So can be considered as in between of that, where we can use a conservative medicine or we can use a palliative medicine for the treatment of the hypovolemic shock. So first we'll understand what is shock. So here in the diagram you can see there are two pictures. One is of the heart and second is the vascular system, that is the arteries and veins and the capillaries. So the two major system is involved in the shock. So it is a life-threatening clinical syndrome. So why life-threatening? Because this is a condition where the patient may die. So till now we have seen in the earlier presentation also I have some of the diseases which I have presented which are not very, you can say, severe, which can lead to death. But here we need to be very sensitive, as in shock there are chances that it can become severe and the patient may die if not treated at time. And it is a clinical syndrome. Why syndrome? Because syndrome means the multiple or group of the disease or group of the symptoms, you can say, where not only the one system but sometimes many of the system is involved and many of the symptoms are involved. So it is a group or clusters of the symptoms. So what is the normal condition and what is the shock condition? So on the left hand side you can see the normal condition where our body there is a balance between the oxygen demand and oxygen supply. For example, if I'll give a numerical data, or you can say just an example. For example, my body is demanding 10% of the oxygen, and means for each and every physiological process my body is demanding 10% of the oxygen, and my food, nutrition supply, my blood supply, all this is able to supply that amount of oxygen to my body, so then a well harmonious playing of all the system or a proper balance of all the system will occur, and there will be a physiological all the physiological function will be proper and will occur at a time, and there will be no any abnormalities. But on the right hand side you can see in shock the demand increases, but the supply decreases. Means what? The consumption is increased and delivery is not at up to the mark. For example, my body is same requiring 10% of the oxygen, but 10% for each and every the function, or you can say in the shock there is some of the abnormalities that we'll see on the later slides. So for that abnormality, I want more of the oxygen supply, but my body is not able to reach up to that mark. Why? Because again there is some of the abnormalities. So there is an imbalance. The demand is increased and the supply is decreased. So you can see the seesaw where there is an imbalance in that. So this is shock. So now shock is a life-threatening clinical syndrome of the cardiovascular collapse characterized by hypotension and hypoperfusion. So again, now what is hypotension? So it is an acute reduction of effective circulating blood volume. Means the circulating blood volume in our body that is reduced, and which will ultimately lead to an inadequate perfusion of the cell and tissue, because we all know, as in the physiology also we have read that the function of the blood is to supply oxygen to each and every cell of the body. So if the blood is less, or the effective circulating blood volume will be less, so the perfusion will be ultimately low. So that today we are going to study in the hypovolemic shock and its therapeutics. So that is why it ultimately becomes a life-threatening clinical syndrome of the cardiovascular system. So whenever there is lack of oxygen, blood supply or oxygen supply, ultimately it will affect the heart, because heart and vessels and lung and all this system runs hand in hand. Because if there will be low amount of circulating blood volume, ultimately the load will be on the heart, and the heart has to pump faster. So to compensate and to you can say compensate for the blood as well as for the oxygen supply for each and every cell. In other words, shock is a condition in which circulation fails to meet the nutritional need of the cell, and at the same time fails to remove the waste product of the body. So again, what is the function of the body is that the nutritional need of the cell as well as the waste product is removed. I'll give an example for in our house. Daily, what is the daily routine of the process? Daily we do the mopping, the cleaning of the house. Or you can say, for example, when we cook, we daily fresh vegetables, and then we clean the vegetables, we remove the layers of the vegetables. The layers of the vegetables are the waste product which need to be removed, and the fresh part of the vegetable has to be consumed. So this is the process which takes place. Same occurs in our body. Daily we take the food, and the food is digested, and this in the form of stool and urine it is removed from the body. So that is at the grand level. So at the cellular level, we will see that there is urea, ammonia, the carbon dioxide. These are the small waste products which is removed from the body. So this is how our body works. But in shock, this system becomes imbalanced, and which will lead to the shock. So the common you can say classifications are cardiac, neurogenic, and hypovolemic shock. So today's topic, that is hypovolemic shock or hematogenic shock. So here I have used these two terms, which will ultimately, you can say it is the same only. Why? Because in hypovolemic shock, hypo is less and volume is, you can consider any volume or fluid of the body. For example, a loss of the water or a fluid contained, that is also, you can say that there is fluid loss. Hematogenic, that is loss of blood, will also consider into the hypovolemic shock. But when I will say the hemorrhagic shock or hematogenic shock, at that time there is specifically blood loss from the body. And when I use the terminology hypovolemic shock, it means there will be in general fluid loss. So you can consider fluid either the water loss, or you can consider either the blood loss from the body. So this type of shock is due to the loss of plasma. Number one, it can be blood or body fluids and electrolytes. So body fluids in the form of, you can say, diarrhea, With that also electrolyte loss occur, and vomiting with that also electrolyte loss occur. So, or in one word, loss of intravascular volume. So ultimately blood, plasma, body fluid, and electrolyte, this will lead to the hypovolemic shock, and the blood loss will lead to the hemorrhagic or hematogenic shock. Now, what can be the cause of hypovolemic shock? So in hypovolemic shock, here, as you can see the diagram, so here there is a gas pump. Here the gas pump, and one lady is holding this pipe. So this diagram shows, this is specifically for understanding for the students who face this topic in the second year in the pathology, as well as in the third year in the surgery, as a full question, where these are the some of the point very important, and they sometimes get confused. So for them, this is the in detail explanation that this is the gas pump, and this is the tube is vasculature, and the petrol which will come out, a gas which will come out, is the blood volume. So the gas pump is the heart. I'll give one more example. For example, in hostel, there is one water tank, big, and through that water tank, in that water tank, there is water, and through the pipes, the water is supplied to each and every room of the hostel. So this is the normal thing. Now what happens, sometimes the cause can be either the pipe is blocked, then also the water will not be supplied to each and every room, or the tank, there is less water in the tank, so it will can also lead to the less or a reduced water supply in the hostel. So the cause can be either the whole tank, so that is heart, or it can be you can say the blood vessels and the blood where it is not able to supply properly. So this is the example. So same way occur in our body. For example, in the heart is not able to pump the blood effectively. So then also the blood will not supply to each and every cell of the body, or as there is already less amount of blood in the body. For example, in the case of anemia, or in some other disease where there is the normal HB is between, you can say, 12 to 15. So there is only 8 or 9 or 10 or 6. So in this amount of HB, the body has to work. So that is why the heart has to pump very faster, so that it can compensate. Yes, so here the both can be reason, but today we are reading or studying hypovolemic shock. So here the reason is the purely blood or reduced supply of the blood. The heart causes will be another topic, that is cardiogenic shock. So yes, and yes, hypovolemic shock is way more common than cardiogenic shock or neurogenic shock or any other kind of shock. So yes, so the causes is dehydration, intractable vomiting, significant diarrhea, GI bleed, and hemorrhage. So the cause of the hypovolemic shock is dehydration, number one. So it is very common in the diarrhea or vomiting. So there is excessive diarrhea, vomiting, it can lead to dehydration, or sometimes what happens, sunstroke. For example, now the summer season has started. So in summer, sometimes what happens because of when a person is going out, so he can has a sunstroke and become dehydrated. Intractable vomiting means, intractable is considered as excessive amount of vomiting. We cannot consider one or two vomiting as which can lead to hypovolemic shock. No. When there is intractable means out of proportion vomiting, you can consider that 8 to 10 vomiting in a day, or whatever the patient is consuming, he's immediately vomit it out. So that can be considered as cause for the hypovolemic shock. The another is significant diarrhea. So same as vomiting, one or two diarrhea is not considered as which can lead to hypovolemic shock. When the diarrhea is very thin, it is very watery, and it is for example 8 to 10 times in a day, and the patient becomes very weak, and there is imbalance between the amount of water patient is consuming and the amount of you can say liquid or diarrhea which comes out. So the input and output balance become disturbed. So that is significant diarrhea which can lead to hypovolemic shock. GI bleed, very common GI bleed. For example, any operation where there is excessive sudden during operation, a major artery is cut. by mistake, or for example, either there is a risky surgery, for example, radical mastectomy, the removal of the breast. So these are the surgery where there is excessive loss of the blood. So in such condition, it can lead to hypovolemic shock. Or you can say in trauma, in accident where there is GI bleed, or you can say a condition chronic or acute chronic, for example, there is piles, or acute hemophilia is a disease where there is a deficiency of clotting factor number 8. So at that time also, when there is excessive loss of the blood, okay. So there is excessive loss of the blood which can lead to hypovolemic shock. And the last is the hemorrhage. The same is the cause. Means hemorrhage is the same, that bleeding or internal or external bleeding. For example, in sometimes in accident, there is external bleeding which is visible, but sometimes the skin is intact, but there is internal bleeding which is not be visual. But within 24 hours, there are some of the symptoms which can lead to patients that because the patient was unaware because the outer skin was intact, but the internal there was bleeding. So we need to be very alert regarding that. So this is the some of the cause of hypovolemic shock. Yes. So what are the features? So loss of plasma through burns. So in the burns, what happen? Uh, so in the burns, what happened that there is a loss of the skin, and the loss of the skin and also some of the blood vessels, depending upon the degree of the burn. There is also first degree, second degree, or third degree. So depending upon that, there is loss of plasma. So that is also considered as the loss of the fluid from the body. The next is the diuresis. Diuresis means excessive urination. Sometimes what happen, and that in some of the condition, the doctors prescribe antidiuretics, because, or you can say supply or gives diuretic. So in some condition, you need to stop the urination for more and more absorption of the fluid in the body to reabsorb more and more fluid, and in some condition you need to prescribe diuretic so that the urine is passed. So in diuresis means excessive urination, so that occurs in the diabetes insipidus. Decreased body fluids, hemorrhage, GI bleeding, vomiting, diarrhea. All this we have already discussed in the previous slide. So this was the pictorial presentation of that. Okay, now what is the pathophysiology? So in pathophysiology of hypovolemic shock, so why it is considered as you can say very risky, or you can say only palliative mode of treatment in homeopathy, because what happened here in the hypovolemic shock, there is hypovolemia, as we already studied in the earlier side, there is loss of the blood supply or loss of the fluid from the body. So it will ultimately lead to the decreased venous return. So we all know the anatomy and physiology. So in the heart has to pump, because when the heart pumps, the fluid reach to each and every cell of the body. But when the already there is lack of the blood supply, for example, 7 or 8 HB, so the blood is already less, and so the venous return will also be reduced. Ultimately, it goes hand in hand. So hypovolemia will obviously lead to decreased venous return. So if there is decreased venous return means the return of the blood supply from periphery, deoxygenated blood from the periphery to the center of the body, that is heart. So it will lead to decreased preload. So decreased preload means it will ultimately, the right side of the heart will be less filled, because already there is only 7 to 8 HB. The return will also be less. So again, the return will be less. So obviously the decreased output. So the output will be reduced. So this goes the whole cycle. So if the cardiac output decreases, so hypotension, the pressure of the body, which is normally 120 by 80, which is because of the flow of the blood or pressure of the blood to the wall of the blood vessels. So as the blood is less, so it will not able to create that amount of the pressure at the blood vessel, and already there will be hypotension. We all know that very commonly when we are dehydrated or standing for the long time, sometimes what happen, we also become hypertension, that is orthostatic hypertension, where because of the long standing or because of the dehydration or sudden loss of the fluid, the blood pressure reduces. So here, this is the typical pathology. And in that, sometimes what happen, it can be a bit of the physiology. For example, it is summer and it is very hot outside. So sometimes our pressure becomes suddenly low. But as soon as we have some this salt and lime water and sugar water, then again our blood pressure return back to the normal. Or if we lie down, we do the head low position, it becomes normal. So that is what you can say, a physiological bit changes. But here this becomes pathology because there is cardiac, there is decreased preload and there is decreased cardiac output. So as hypertension will lead to the perfusion failure and tissue hypoxia. So perfusion failure and tissue hypoxia, this is the important thing which we have seen in the number 2 slide, where it will lead to hypertension and hyperperfusion. So here we have already proved that because of hypertension, in the second slide I have told you that hypovolemic shock or in general shock, it leads to the hypertension and hypoperfusion. So this is the whole cycle, why it lead to hypertension and why it lead to hypoperfusion. But obviously the blood supply will be less, so it will lead to the perfusion failure and tissue hypoxia, and there will be organ dysfunction and ultimately multi-organ failure. So one organ will, obviously heart will be affected, blood supply will be affected. So one organ, then another organ, and like this way there will be multi-organ failure or multi-organ involvement. So now that is the effect of the effect on the body. So drowsiness, starting from head to tip. So from head, drowsiness, irritability, anxiety, fainting. These are the symptoms starting from the head. So, but obviously, whenever there is low blood supply, cardiac output is low, there is hypotension. So there will be some of the irritability. Why does irritability produce? When the patient is mentally confused. Why? Because of the lack of the oxygen and glucose supply to the brain. So the brain of the patient or mind of the patient becomes irritable, drowsy, a bit of the unconscious, or you can say lack of the orientation. The next, there will be anxiety, there will be fainting, there will be dizziness. So patient is not able to clearly focus. There will be a dizziness or drowsiness is like the patient does not have typical vertigo, but the patient feel that he will fall down. Next, there will be enlarged pupil. Why enlarged pupil? Because slowly what happens, that in condition of shock, slowly there will be enlarged pupils, which will lead to, means and the sign is enlarged pupil or dilated pupil is towards the condition where it is getting very worse, or at last dilated pupil is a thing where you can say the patient is dead. So in shock, there is a sign where there is enlarged pupil, fast pulse, but obviously the heart has to pump faster to compensate. So it will lead to shallow and rapid breathing. The breathing will also become very shallow and rapid because the heart is working very fast, and heart and lungs go hand in hand, the whole cardiac cycle. I'll not discuss it again, that we all know the cardiac cycle. So the lung will also has to compensate, and so that is why the breathing become very shallow and rapid, and not, you can say, deep breathing, very fast breathing. Excessive sweating, nausea, vomiting, blue or gray fingernails or lips, cold, pale, clammy skin. This will be again the sign and symptom. Nausea, vomiting, or excessive sweating, depending upon which condition, because of which condition patient has affected. Blue or gray fingernails is because there will be, as I told you, reduction of the blood, that is decrease oxygen supply and increase of the carbon dioxide, and so that is why there will be bluish or gray fingernails and cold, pale, clammy skin, because there is again reduced blood supply. The function of the blood is to produce heat or warm in the body. So that is why we are known as warm blooded animals, because our body is warm. It is because of the blood supply. So when the blood reduces, so the periphery of our body becomes cold, pale, and clammy. And also in the hypertension, the palm and sole become very cold because the body has to supply the blood and nutrition to the important organ of the body, that is the center of the body, that is lung, heart, brain, kidney. So that is why the less important organ, that is the periphery, the extremities become cold, pale, and clammy. So now the sign and symptoms of the shock, that is if it is in the irreversible shock. This were the earlier slides were of reversible shock, where you can, so in the later slides we can see that these are the symptoms which we are going to treat with the homeopathy. These are yes, this one. So these all symptoms are reversible. You can reverse it and if treated on time. But the third stage, that is the irreversible shock, where the victim become unresponsive, respiratory and cardiac arrest. So here we cannot do anything, because here the patient needs emergency treatment, needs ICU, needs a big setup, and homeopathy can't help. Respiratory and cardiac arrest, but obviously because of the shock. For example, you have known that in dengue what happened, that if it is not treated at time, so platelet count becomes very low, and the patient can also go in shock because of the dengue. So these are the condition. In the beginning the patient don't take it seriously because it is dengue, it is very common in the monsoon season. So most of the patients complain of this, there is fever and there is diarrhea, vomiting, indigestion and all that. But later what happened, the platelet counts become very low, which patient was unaware. And then there is excessive bleeding because platelet count is low, so bleeding from each and every orifice of the body, and patient can lead to dengue toxic syndrome, or you can say shock syndrome occur in that patient. So this kind of patient, whether it becomes very emergency, irreversible changes occur. Now the guideline is treat the cause, improve cardiac function, improve tissue perfusion. So treat the cause, that will do in the homeopathic treatment, that some of the remedies are there with the which help of which we can treat the symptoms of the patient. We can only palliate, we cannot treat the cause again. Sorry, we cannot treat the whole, we cannot reverse the symptoms, or we cannot purely cure the patient, but we can palliate it. Improve cardiac function, again, we cannot reverse some of the cardiac. For example, if there is valvular changes, if there is cardiogenic shock, valvular changes, or you can say MI or congestive cardiac failure, because of that the patient is having. So we cannot deal with that case, but we can deal with some of the symptoms which are in our control, which can help the patient to get better. We can help as a supportive treatment. Improve tissue perfusion. So again, you need to improve tissue perfusion. Tissue perfusion can be done by oxygen supply. So we need to give mechanical oxygen pump to the patient. So these are some of the homeopathic therapy: aconite, carbovage, camphora, veratrum, strontium, belladonna, apis, arnica. These are some of the remedies which I have written in short. And other than that, the major 6 remedies I have. Am I audible?
Yes, you can continue.
Yeah. There was some problem in my network, so that is why. Okay, so these are the remedies which I have collected from different textbooks. But other than this, there are 6 major remedies which I'm going to explain in the later slides from this. Okay, now immediate treatment. What an allopath doctor or emergency doctor deal with this kind of shock? So immediate measures are A, B, C, D, E. So these are the short form or you can mnemonics. You can say mnemonics, where A for airways. Wait. Okay. So A for airways, B for breathing, C for cardiac compression, that is external cardiac compression, internal open cardiac massage, drugs, ECG, and monitoring. So these are the ABCD which I also tell the patient to remember, because it is very important in dealing with such patients. Such patient can come to us or come to our door anytime in the, even in the OPDs also. Not necessarily that they will come with the accident or like that, but excessive diarrhea and vomiting is also kind of hypovolemic shock. So they can come to us that doctor, the patient is having 7 to 8 diarrhea, so what should we do? So in such condition also we have to deal. So we should know that how to start or how to resume with such patient, because whenever we listen or we can whenever we hear the word shock, the shock means it has to be dealt in the emergency. That is our mentality. But these are the silly complaints, that diarrhea, vomiting, no one takes it seriously, and ultimately whenever, until it reach to 7 or 10 episodes a day, and then the patient comes to us or they come to in our OPD. So at that time we need to deal with that. So here is the first is the airway. We need to see that the airway of the patient is clear, because if the breathing is not clear, if the airway is clear, then only the breathing will be clear. And number 3 is the cardiac compression. So that is external and internal. External cardiac compression is that which we do the CPR, or you can do cardiac massage, which we do externally. At any time we can do, if the patient is lying on the road or in the OPD or any emergency. Even layman can do CPR if he is trained. Next is internal open cardiac massages, when the patient, the surgery is done and the heart is open, and the doctor, that which is professionally be done by a cardiologist or interventional cardiologist, when during in the OT the chest part is open and then live on the heart it is done. So it is, we cannot do it, it is performed by a professional cardiologist or interventional cardiologist. Last is drug and ECG monitoring, that we know the drugs which are emergency drug we need to give it, and the ECG and monitoring. So these are the some of the photos of the I have taken from the internet for the first aid, how to do first aid for the shock. So first check the response whenever the such patient, this patient can be, you can see on the road or anywhere in the neighbor or anywhere. So for that, the first step is check for the responsiveness, normal breathing, and severe bleeding, and care for life-threatening injuries first. So first we need to see that patient is alert, responsive, conscious, oriented or not. If patient is conscious, oriented, so we can ask the patient, and we can ask the some of the complaints, where he is staying or whatever whatever the preliminary data. You can say preliminary data in sense, what is your name, where you are staying, or your give me your number. These are the preliminary data, and other than that we can have an idea whether the brain is involved in not, because if the patient is conscious and oriented, it means the condition is still in our control. And if the patient is unconscious, or you can say conscious but not oriented, it means some or other internal injuries are there. We can also check the breathing, if the patient is normally breathing or not, or there is haphazard breathing or severe bleeding, if the patient is bleeding haphazardly, or there is some life-threatening injury. Life-threatening injury, you can say in the, for example, in the abdomen, in the chest, in the brain. These are the part which are the very important vital organ, and these are considered as life-threatening injuries. Not necessarily this, but in the extremities also it can be considered as life-threatening, unless and until if it is bleeding very much. Depending upon the amount of bleeding, we can judge whether it is life-threatening or not. Call medical emergency number immediately. We need to call 108 for that. After that, have victim lie on back. Yes, then one more important thing, that if we see such patient, then lie the victim on the back, raise legs, so that the because of the head low position, or not head low but leg will be raised, so some of the, because of the gravities, the blood will be towards the center, or you can say towards the more important organ. Put breathing unresponsive, Good breathing, unresponsive victim. If no suspected spinal injury in recovery position, loosen any tight clothing. Yes, it is very necessary that this condition, lying patient on back or not any other position. If there is any suspected spinal injury, if there is any back injury, then we cannot keep, or we cannot, you can say, make patient to lie in any other position, because it will worsen the complaint of the patient. Lose the tight cloth, be alert for vomiting, turns victim head to drain the mouth. If the patient is vomiting at that time, just turn the victim's head, because if the patient is unconscious or semi-conscious and the patient is vomiting, so the vomiting can go into the lung and patient may have aspiration and may die. So to prevent that, we need to turn the victim head to drain the mouth. Sometimes what happen, excessive vomiting and diarrhea, this is the complaint with which patient, very common complaint with which patient comes to us. So at that time also, because of excessive vomiting, diarrhea, the patient becomes semi-conscious. So semi-conscious and lying on the bed, and then also the patient is having a sensation of vomiting. So at that time also we need to turn the head. So these are the small 6 signs we have to be alert for that as a doctor, and we have to turn the victim head so that the patient does not aspirate. Maintain the normal body temperature, so that we need to maintain. So for that we can cover up the patient, maintain the room temperature. We can also, if there is excessive blood loss, we can give blood supply, or just rub the hand if we are on the area where these facilities are not available. So for emergency, or we can rub the hand, foot and palm of the patient. So this is the head low position, head low or raised leg position, and this is the photo of the CPR which we need to give. Okay, so this was the shock, hypovolemic shocks, and the in general treatment, or you can say the first aid treatment. So from here starts the therapeutics. So here in the sequence, I have taken the source, key indication, mental state, physical state, shock triggers, modalities, and important note. So in this way, I have arranged 6 remedies for shock. So, even aconite is good. Yes, am I audible?
A little bit, it was just the net was not stable, but now it's all audible. You try again. Let me check.
Yes, I've checked my net.
No. Just continue.
Is
Yeah.
it
Please continue.
so okay, so aconite, so as Master Hahnemann has also told that aconite is a purely an acute remedy, and in any acute emergency condition, it should be prescribed. So source is Boric, Kent and Clark. So key indication, sudden onset of shock, especially after fright, injury or surgery. So we need to remember that aconite is just not only for the physical shock, but also for the mental shock. For example, if the patient emotional shock, you can also see in many of the movies what happened, that there is sudden death of someone or closed one, or some of the very bad news, or you can say sometimes very happy news or very exciting news. So patient goes in the sudden shock. So shock, especially after fright, any fear or fright, any injury or any surgery. So after surgery injury, as I told you in the hemorrhagic shock, that after any surgery or injury, there is sudden loss of the blood supply. And because of that, what happened? The patient may go into hypovolemic hemorrhagic shock. In such condition, we can give aconite. So it can be injury, it can be surgery, it can be after fright. Mental state, intense fear of death, restlessness, anxiety. In the features we have seen, there is restlessness, there is anxiety, and because of that, aconite itself also carry this symptom of fear of death. So such patient who are suffering from this and they have intense fear of death, so we can prescribe in that. pale cold skin, rapid feeble pulse, dry mouth. So that is the symptom of hypovolemic shock, which we have seen in that diagram form. And also it is a symptom of aconite, where the patient, the skin become very cold, the pulse become very rapid and feeble. As I told you, as there is hypovolemic shock, the heart has to pump very faster. But what happens, there is not much of the blood supply, so the pressure is not that much. So that is why you will feel very feeble, weak pulse, and the mouth is dry. But obviously there is hypovolemic shock, that the patient is dehydrated, there is loss of blood supply, loss of the fluid, so there will be dryness in the mouth. Shock triggers, so trauma, hemorrhage, surgery, acute loss of the fluid. So all this condition, you can go with the aconite, or you can say ailments from. Modalities: worse at night from cold, better with warm. So this is the modalities, that night aggravation, cold aggravation, and better by warmth. Important note: act best at the very onset of the shock. So as soon as such patient come to you, or you can say if there is diarrhea, vomiting, or excessive bleeding, and such patient come to you, give one dose of the aconite, so we can have a palliative mode of treatment in this. Second is arsenic, same as aconite. Here the sources Boric, Kent, and Clark. Key indication is collapse with extreme weakness, prostration, and restlessness. So here you can see the difference of the key indication, that the patient will collapse with extreme weakness. That is so weakness, there is so loss of the fluid that the patient becomes collapse, or you can say the patient almost semi-conscious, unconscious come to us. Weakness and prostration. Prostration means very much weakness out of proportion, means patient is not even able to stand, not even able to sit. The patient will come to us in a stretcher, or someone is carrying the patient independently is not able to stand or do any activity. Restlessness, mental state, fear of death, anxiety, desire for company. So again, same as aconite, arsenic has a key indication of fear of death, anxiety, and desire for company. So in such condition, the patient wants someone to be near him. Physical state: cold sweat, icy cold skin, and burning pain. So here you can see one of the contraindicatory symptom, that in shock also, as well as in arsenic, there is cold sweat, icy cold skin. So that is very key feature, which we as a therapeutic we can give in hypovolemic shock. But there will be also be burning pain, which is better with heat. So that we'll see later on. So shock triggers: food poisoning. So in food poisoning, there is excessive diarrhea, vomiting, as arsenic is a poison. In the FMT, we have seen, in the Materia Medica also seen, that arsenic itself is a poison. So it lead to upset stomach and diarrhea, vomiting, and all that. So food poisoning is one of the reason with which patient comes to us with excessive diarrhea, vomiting, fluid loss, diarrhea, dehydration. Modalities: worse at midnight. It has a modality of midnight aggravation, midday, midnight. Better with warmth and sips of water. Important note: excellent in collapse with burning sensation despite of coldness. So arsenic is one of the trio of burner's remedy. Others are sulfur and phosphorus. So arsenic, though the body or sweat or skin is cold, but the arsenic patient will have a typical sensation of the burning in the stomach, which is relieved by, you can say, sip of water, or you can say warm water, or anything better with warmth. So this is the second remedy. Third is Veratrum album, which is very wonderful remedy. Again, the source is Herring, Clark, and Boric. Key indication is severe shock with profuse cold, sweat, vomiting, and diarrhea. So Veratrum is one of the remedy where, if you read Materia Medica, you will see excessive fluid loss, just like you can check China. So severe shock with profuse cold sweat, vomiting, diarrhea. Again, here you can see there is vomiting, diarrhea. So in any condition leads to vomiting, diarrhea, typhoid, cholera, you can also give Veratrum album. Or you can, the hypovolemic shock cannot be caused, but because of vomiting, diarrhea, Not necessarily the patient is hypovolemic shock, but it is going towards that. And the patient is very dehydrated. So you can give this Veratrum album. Mental state, delirium, shrieking, praying, fear of impending doom. So see, you can compare from the earlier two remedies. Now this is a bit of the severe, you can say the severity has increased here. The earlier two remedies a bit of anxiety, restlessness, fear of death. But here we can see the patient is having delirium. Delirium means now the patient is not able to recognize the surrounding people, and he is not able to properly speak, or he is not oriented. So his mind is confused. So delirium, shrieking, praying, he's praying that, and also fear of impending doom means he has fear that he will die now. So here the mental state is a bit of the higher pathology. Physical state, again, icy coldness of the body, face pale, blue, feeble. So that is why we have selected this remedy, because it is matching with the symptom of the hypovolemic shock. In hypovolemic shock also, the body become pale, cold. We know why, because we have already read the pathology. Shock triggers, sudden fluid loss, cholera, postpartum hemorrhage. These are the some of the, you can say, trigger factor, that sudden fluid loss. Then cholera. In cholera, there is excessive rise watery diarrhea, which will lead to hypovolemic shock. Postpartum hemorrhage. So after delivery, what happens? Sometimes many of the female suffer from postpartum hemorrhage. So in that, you can give Veratrum album. Modalities: worse from motion, better with warmth and quiet. Important keynotes, key remedy for collapse after violent fluid loss. So this is very important symptom where there is excessive violent fluid loss. Maybe it blood, maybe it fluid. So you can, and when the patient become collapse because of this fluid loss, you can give Veratrum album. Next remedy is Carbovage. Again, sources Boric, Clark, Kent. So key indication here, again we'll see the increase in the severity. So that is near death state, desire to be fend, air hunger. So Carbovage is given in condition where any person is about to die. If you read the Materia Medica, it is written in that Carbovage has a capacity that whenever you can see if the patient is very, you can say, unconscious, about to die, or approaching to death. So there you can give this condition. I have seen I have seen the live example of Carbovage in my PG, where we, in the one patient was in ICU, and we have given some of the dose of the Carbovage when I didn't exactly remember the disease, but he was in ICU and he was almost he was about to lose his breath, means near about. So we have given, or we have tried the Carbovage, and we could not save the patient, but we can, because it was too late for that, but we have given that in such patient, but we can give earlier than that so that we can save the patient. So near death state, desire to be fed, air hunger. Why? Because the patient desire to be fed. Air hunger means there will be craving of the oxygen, because already patient means whenever the patient about to die, so the patient looks very much like, you can say, restless and craving for oxygen, and very much, you can say, in a dull state. So here you will see this, and the pathology has also increased. Mental state, indifferent, dull, apathy. Indifference, dull is, you can say, emotional state. Apathy, dullness is a state because of the shock, and indifferent and apathy is a typical emotional state of the Carbovage. Physical state, cold extremities, bluish skin, clammy sweat, weak perspiration. So these are the symptoms typical of the shock, which we have almost seen in each and every remedies. So there is cold extremities, bluish skin. Again, it is because of the decreased oxygen supply. Clammy sweat, weak perspiration. Shock trigger is prolonged breathing, surgery, sepsis. So you can give when there is prolonged bleeding after any surgery, or after surgery, or you can say sepsis or infection after surgery, or you can say after trauma or accident there is any infection. So at that time also you can give carbovage. But one very important symptom to be remembered in the carbovage is near the death state. Modalities worse from warmth, better from cold, being fanned. And yes, important note, it is known as corpse reviver in homeopathy. Corpse reviver means that corpse means dead body, and reviver means it will relive the patient. So as I told you, when the patient is in the deathbed, so you can give this remedy, this drug to save the life of the patient.
Doctor, we have only 5 more minutes to continue. So 2 more medicines, I
Yes,
think.
yes. So this is the, yes, 2 more medicine, then I'm done. So the last second remedy, China. So we all know that, yes, the source is Allen, Boric and Clark. So we all know that China is a very wonderful remedy when there is loss of the vital fluids, and vital fluids like blood, sweat, diarrhea, body fluids. So collapse from loss of the vital fluid. It is also given in anemia. It works really wonders in the anemia. And also in any of the blood loss, even after any surgery you can give it, even after in the cesarean section or any surgical after any surgery when there is blood loss, so you can give China for the reviving of the patient. So mental state is weak, irritable, oversensitive to pain and noise. So this is again the some of the emotional symptoms and some of the symptoms because of the shock, like irritability, which we have also seen in the earlier slide in the feature of the shock where there is irritability. Oversensitive to pain, noise. Physical state, pale face, cold sweat, bloated abdomen. So again, China is one of the remedy of the tympanitic or you can say abdominal flatulence remedy. The other two is carbovage and lycopodium, and the third is China. So that is why you will see some of the stomach symptom, that is bloated abdomen, gaseous distension of the abdomen along with the symptoms of the shock, cold sweat, pale face. Shock triggers are hemorrhage, chronic diarrhea, postpartum fluid loss. So again, these very commonly ailments from are almost same in all the remedies, that is hemorrhage, chronic diarrhea, but obviously because of this complaint only the hypovolemic shock occur. Postpartum fluid loss, modalities is worse at night, better from pressure and warmth. So the symptom will be worse at night and better from pressure and warmth. Important is especially for debility from fluid or blood depletion. So debility means excessive weakness, just like prostration. Debility is very common in all acid group of remedies. So here also we will see, because here there is loss of the blood and fluid. So this is the important note that China should be given when there is debility from fluid or blood depletion. So the last remedy is camphora. Again, camphora is very important shock remedy. Source is Herring, Clark, Boric. Key indication is sudden complete collapse with icy coldness and no reaction. So camphora can be given when there is very unconscious patient. The patient is lying in front of you, or you can say on the road or anywhere. For example, accident has occurred and the patient is unconscious and bleeding. So there you can give camphora. As we know, our pills are just absorbed by tongue. So you can put some of the pills in the mouth, or some of the liquid of the, you can say direct, you can put the liquid of the camphora in the mouth. So that will be absorbed. So sudden complete collapse with icy coldness and no reaction. So this is the sign that complete collapse and icy coldness. Mental state, anxiety, confusion, and stupefaction. This is the only remedy where we have seen stupefaction. Stupefaction means the patient is unaware of surrounding orientation. Here, his brain, mind is affected. Confusion means what? Not emotional. Here, because of the brain, lack of the glucose and oxygen and blood supply to the brain, there is confusion. He is not knowing where he is, unaware of surrounding, unaware of the people, and anxiety. Physical state, body cold but not sweating, pulse imperceptible. Body is very cold, not sweating, pulse is very much, you can say, fast. Triggers are exposure to cold, cholera, and dehydration. Modality was from cold, better with external warmth. So shock triggers are cold, cholera, and dehydration. Even there is a mnemonics of the camphora, that complete collapse, coldness, cholera. These are the C mnemonics where you can use this camphora. The camphora sees three important symptoms of the camphora is collapse, coldness, and cholera. So modalities was from cold, better with external warmth. Okay, I am done, sir.
Excellent. Dr. Surabhi Soni, and we had a great overall view on this hypovolemic shock, and it was wonderfully well. So we should be very good bedside practitioners, bedside prescribers with homeopathy, could watch and prescribe with precision. Then only this emergency management will work. Your class was excellent, and now we don't have any time to interact with the other persons. I know Dot will be waiting to interact. It was a great session. Next time, you please come again. We need to add
Sure,
more. We need to interact because it's time to start another session. On
Yes,
behalf
sir.
of IUPH, I thank you for this session, and I thank all who attended this session. Tomorrow,
Okay, thank
the
you,
same
sir.
time, tomorrow at the same time, we will be having the 1709th day of IUPH International Session. Professor Dr. Aparna Sandeep Parikh will be taking the session. Thank you. Over to Malayalam, Dr. Shaila.